Welcome to Your Future Starts Now, the go-to podcast for extraordinary women who are ready to step into their next chapter with authentic confidence. I'm your host, Gia Lacqua, empowerment coach, motivational speaker, children's book author, and girl mom. Whether you're a corporate powerhouse or an entrepreneur, this show is designed for you. Your Future Starts Now is more than just a podcast. It's a movement towards rewriting the rules of success for high-achieving women. Are you ready to get unstuck and step into your next chapter? If so, you're exactly where you need to be. Your future starts now. Welcome to Your Future Starts Now. I'm your host, Gia Lacqua. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I've been receiving a lot of really great questions from our listeners, our amazing audience, and thank you for tuning in. I thought it would be incredibly valuable to dedicate this episode to answer some of your most frequently asked questions. So let's dive right in. Our first question comes from Christine, who asks, how can I balance career success, a family, and take time for myself without feeling guilty? Christine, thanks for asking this question. It's such an important one, and it's one that many of us high-achieving women grapple with. Balancing career, family, and personal time is such a delicate act, but it is entirely possible with some intentional strategies. And by the way, these are not things that I would say most of us were taught growing up. And so it's not necessarily inherent or intuitive. So sometimes we have to sort of learn them at a later point in life. So first, it's essential to prioritize. And I talked about this on the last episode, but understand that you can't do everything at once. And that's perfectly okay. So focus on what's most important at any given moment. So first, what I want you to do is really zoom out and try to take a bird's eye view and think about holistically, in the grand scheme of life, what is important, and sort of identify those core buckets for yourself. Then think about, like, under each of those buckets, more specifically, what are your priorities? What are you focused on, right? Then you can zoom in and think about what that looks like on a monthly, weekly, daily basis. And that helps you so that when you're at work, you can be fully present and give it your best. And when you're with your family, you can disconnect from work and really cherish that time with your children. The next thing I would say is it's really important to set clear boundaries. And I know this is really hard for many women, but it's important to let your colleagues know when you're not available for work-related matters because you're dedicating that time to family or yourself. And similarly, communicate with your family about your work commitments and protecting your time, right? When you need you time, making sure that you're doing the same. And giving yourself that permission to take time for self-care without feeling guilty. And this is really hard for many high-achieving women because it feels selfish. But here's what I would say. You cannot show up as the best version of yourself when you are depleted. So think about how you show up when you're exhausted, frazzled, overwhelmed, undernourished, hungry. Are you patient, thoughtful, intentional, kind? Are you creative? If you're anything like me, the answer is probably not. I find that when I'm run down, I am cranky, I am tired, I am short-fused, and pretty much everything and everyone irritates me. And so in order for you to be the best leader at work, the best mother to your children at home, partner, friend, and so on, we owe it not only to ourselves, but to those we love to prioritize our own well-being. Okay, our next question is from Barbara, who says, you talk a lot about overfunctioning. Can you explain what that means exactly? Great question, Barbara. Overfunctioning is one of my favorite topics, and It's not commonly discussed. So I would love to take a moment to explain. Overfunctioning is when we take on more than our fair share of responsibilities. So we find ourselves often stepping in to manage or control situations that are outside of our scope. Now, when I say outside of our scope, I mean that others are capable of handling themselves. This can happen at work, and it can happen at home, where we might handle all the household duties, even when others could pitch in. Now, there's sort of a lot of different underpinnings when it comes to overfunctioning, but oftentimes the root cause lies in our desire to prove ourselves, to be seen as competent and indispensable. But as we know, it can lead to not only burnout, but resentment. And so the key to overcoming overfunctioning is, first of all, the awareness. So recognize it, and then start setting those healthy boundaries and being really, really clear on what falls within the scope of your responsibilities at work and at home. Now, I'm not saying don't help out when others need your help. We should, of course, extend ourselves when appropriate. But I think for many of us, that becomes our default, and we have to recognize when we're doing it. So trust others to take on their responsibilities and focus on tasks that really require your attention. And I know this is hard also for a lot of women, because we feel like when we outsource or delegate or ask someone to take on their share of responsibility, a lot of times I hear, well, it's not done right, or it's not done the way I would do it, or it's not done the way I would like it to be done. And that's a real hurdle for many of us. And so when that comes up for you, I would challenge you to think about what needs to meet those standards and what you can accept at someone else's standards. Right? So if you're talking about the way the dishes are put in the dishwasher or the way they're put away in the cabinet, right? Learning to be a little more flexible and fluid in those situations, right? When it comes to obviously more important things, safety, health, you're not going to lower your standards. And so I think it is really important to just focus on what is going to be your non-negotiables. Focusing on what is non-negotiable for you versus where can we be a little bit flexible. So this not only alleviates your workload, but it also empowers others around you. Okay, our third question is from Emily, who wants to know, how do I know if I'm just stressed or dealing with burnout? And what's the difference? So Emily, this is a really crucial distinction to understand. So thank you for your question. Stress and burnout are certainly related, but they are not the same. So stress is typically a short-term experience, and it's caused by a specific situation or a demand. So when the stressor is removed, the stress usually dissipates. Now, it's important to keep in mind that not all stress is bad, right? Certain levels of acute stress can be helpful in certain situations. The problem is many of us find ourselves living under chronic stress and constant stressors. So common symptoms of stress, as we know, are anxiety, irritability, and physical symptoms. It can manifest physically, headaches, muscle tension, insomnia. Burnout, on the other hand, is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion, which is caused by the prolonged stress. And it often results from feeling overwhelmed and feeling that you're unable to meet the constant demands. So the way I like to think about it is, when you're in stress mode, you're overwhelmed. There's too much. When you are in burnout mode, there's not enough. You don't have enough to give. And we also feel that chronic fatigue. We can become more cynical, negative in our thinking. We can become detached from our work, from our families, our relationships. And we feel like we're not as effective and probably less productive as well. So if you're experiencing burnout, it's essential to take immediate steps to address it. And this can involve seeking support from a professional, a therapist, a coach, and making significant changes to your professional workload, your work environment, as well as at home, and recognizing what needs to shift, being able to prioritize self-care and really recover your energy. So that's all we have for today. I want to thank you for such insightful questions from our audience. It's been really great addressing them. And I hope these answers help you on your journey to finding balance and fulfillment. If you have more questions or topics you'd like to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out through our website or on Instagram at Gialacqua. And thank you for joining me on today's episode of Your Future Starts Now. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, rate, and leave a review. Until next time, your next chapter is waiting. Take care.
That concludes another empowering episode of Your Future Starts Now. Before we wrap up, I want to thank this incredible community of high-achieving women. Your energy, resilience, and commitment to growth are the driving force behind what we do. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate it, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your feedback fuels our mission to empower high-achieving women just like you. And of course, share Your Future Starts Now with the extraordinary women in your life who are also on a journey of healing and empowerment. Connect with us on social media, share your thoughts, let us know what topics you'd like to explore in future episodes. Stay connected on Instagram at Gialacqua. I encourage you to carry the energy of this conversation into your day and keep on supporting the incredible women around you. Until next time, remember, your next chapter is waiting.